Finagly agreed to help her friend as a tour guide, not knowing the simple American tourist was a millionaire looking for real love. The sun hung low over Charleston's waterfront, painting the Battery in hues of gold and pink as gulls wheeled above the harbor. Lily stood at the edge of the tourist dock, her arms crossed, her sneakers scuffing the weathered planks. At 27, she was used to the rhythm of selling cruise tickets and dodging the occasional drunk sailor. But today her best friend, Mia, had roped her into a last-minute favor, playing tour guide for some guy because of a family emergency. Lily's phone buzzed with Mia's apologetic text, but she ignored it, her eyes scanning the crowd for her tardy client. The salty breeze tugged at her ponytail, and she tapped her watch, irritation simmering. A man ambled toward her, hands in the pockets of faded jeans, his flannel shirt untucked and sleeves rolled up. He looked like any other tourist, mid-30s, scruffy jaw, sunglasses perched on his head, but the easy swagger in his step grated on her instantly. She squinted at the name scribbled on her clipboard. "You're Michael?" she called, her voice sharp over the lap of waves. "You're 20 minutes late. I've been standing here forever." He stopped, raising an eyebrow, a half smile curling his lips. "Relax, I just got turned around a bit." "You always this stressed out?" Lily's jaw tightened, her fingers gripping the clipboard. "Stressed? If you don't respect my time, I'm not dragging you around Charleston all day." He chuckled, unfazed, adjusting his sunglasses. "All right, fair point. But I'm here now, so let's make it work, yeah?" His tone was light, teasing, and it only fueled her annoyance. She exhaled through her nose, forcing a tight nod. "Fine, follow me. Boat's this way." She turned on her heel, striding toward the dock where a small tour cruiser bobbed, its engine idling. Michael kept pace, his boots thudding behind her, and she could feel his gaze, curious, maybe amused, burning into her back. They boarded, and she launched into her rehearsed spiel about Charleston's history, pirates, plantations, cobblestone streets, but her words clipped short whenever he interrupted with a question, each one oddly specific, like he already knew half the answers. "Why'd they build the Battery so low?" he asked, leaning on the rail as the boat cut through the water. "Seems like a flood waiting to happen." Lily shot him a look, her ponytail swinging. Well, that they didn't. They didn't plan for hurricanes back then. "You gonna quiz me all day?" "Maybe," he said, grinning. "You're good at this. Got a spark." She rolled her eyes, steering the conversation back to Fort Sumter looming ahead, but his casual confidence needled her. He didn't act like the usual tourists, gawking, snapping selfies. He watched her, not the scenery, and it threw her off. Lily was fire and grit, pouring her heart into Charleston stories, but she kept her own locked tight after a boyfriend who'd left her for someone less complicated. Trust didn't come easy anymore. Michael, though, wasn't what he seemed either. Michael Hayes, 35, wasn't just a guy with a backpack and scuffed boots. He'd built a fortune flipping historic properties, mansions, theaters, whole city blocks, while staying out of the headlines. Charleston was his escape, a place to find something real after years of shallow flings and gold diggers. Lily, with her sharp tongue and no-nonsense glare, was already more than he'd expected. They docked back at the harbor, the tour winding down as the sky turned violet. Lily handed him a map for the next day's itinerary, her tone brisk. "Meet me at City Market 9 sharp. Don't be late again." He took the map, his fingers brushing hers for a split second, and leaned in just enough to catch her off guard. "You're a hell of a challenge, Lily," he said, his voice low, a wink flashing in his hazel eyes. "I like that." She froze, her cheeks warming despite herself, and muttered, "Whatever," before turning away. As his footsteps faded into the crowd, she stood there, clutching the clipboard, her heart tripping over itself. Michael Hayes was trouble, she felt it, but something in his grin made her wonder what kind of trouble he'd bring. The morning sun spilled over Charleston's cobblestone streets, casting long shadows as Lily waited at City Market, her clipboard tucked under her arm. She'd barely slept, Michael's parting wink from yesterday looping in her mind like an annoying song. At exactly 9 he appeared, still in jeans but with a fresh linen shirt, his hazel eyes scanning the bustling stalls until they landed on her. She ignored the flutter in her chest, nodding curtly. "Right on time for once," she said, turning to lead the way. "Let's move." They wove through the market, the air thick with the scent of sweetgrass baskets and fried oysters. Lily pointed out the vendors, explaining how Gullah women braided history into every weave, her voice warming as she spoke. Michael listened, his questions sharp, about trade routes, old families, the city's scars from war. "You know this place like it's your blood," he said, pausing at a stall to finger a woven coaster. "Born here?" "Close enough," she replied, sidestepping. "Grew up 10 miles out. You?" He shrugged, saying only East Coast, and she let it drop, but his vagueness gnawed at her. They moved on to Rainbow Row, its pastel houses glowing under the light. She rattled off dates and architects, but he kept circling back to her, why she stayed, what she loved, what kept her up at night. "You're nosy," she muttered, adjusting her sunglasses. "Curious," he corrected, his grin easy. "You're more interesting than these houses." She scoffed, but his sincerity disarmed her, pulling at threads she'd tied shut long ago. Lily loved Charleston's bones, the stories in its bricks, but she'd learned to guard her own after a lover who'd called her dreams cute before leaving. Michael's attention felt different, but she didn't trust it yet. They hit the Battery next, strolling past cannons and live oaks draped in moss. He asked about her favorite spot, and she hesitated, then pointed to a quiet bench overlooking the harbor. "There," she said. "Sunsets hit different." He nodded like he was filing it away, and she wondered why it mattered to him. By noon they landed at a hole-in-the-wall diner on King Street, its ceiling fans humming over checkered floors. Lily ordered shrimp and grits. Michael got a burger, joking about needing real food after her history lessons. As the server cleared their plates, Michael pulled out cash for the bill, slipping a $50 tip under the receipt, more than their meal. Lily's eyes narrowed, catching the glint of a sleek Mont Blanc pen he used to scribble a note for the waiter. That wasn't tourist gear. It screamed money, the kind you didn't flash unless you forgot to hide it. "Generous," she said, her tone probing as they stepped outside. "Kid looked like he needed it," Michael said, shoving the pen back in his pocket. But she clocked the move, too quick, too deliberate, her gut twisted. He didn't act like the backpackers she guided with their crumpled maps and tight budgets. His questions, his ease, that damn pen, it didn't add up. Back at her apartment that evening, Lily kicked off her shoes and grabbed her laptop, the diner's moment replaying. She typed Michael Hayes into the search bar, her fingers pausing before hitting enter. Results flooded in. Obits, random LinkedIn profiles, then a buried article from a New York paper, reclusive investor Michael Hayes buys historic block, vanishes from scene. No photo, just rumors of a guy who'd turned crumbling buildings into gold, then dropped off the grid. Her pulse quickened. Was it him? The dates lined up, but the Michael she knew wore scuffed boots, not bespoke suits. She scrolled further, finding whispers of deals in Boston, Philly, a fortune built on instinct and secrecy. Nothing confirmed, just enough to make her wonder. She shut the laptop, staring at the ceiling. Lily wasn't naive. People hid things, especially men with charm like his. She'd been burned before, believing in someone who wasn't real. But Michael's laugh, his questions, they felt genuine, didn't they? Pacing her tiny living room, she stopped by the window, Charleston's lights twinkling beyond. "What are you hiding?" she muttered, her voice swallowed by the hum of the city. She'd keep guiding him, but she'd watch closer now, determined to crack the puzzle of Michael Hayes before he cracked her. The Charleston sky burned orange as Lily locked up her clipboard at the tour office, the day's heat lingering on her skin. She'd spent hours guiding Michael through the French Quarter, his questions about old churches and hidden alleys sharper than most tourists. He'd been quieter today, less teasing, but his hazel eyes still followed her too closely, stirring a mix of curiosity and caution she couldn't shake. As she slung her bag over her shoulder, he caught up, his boots scuffing the pavement. "Hey, Lily," he said, hands in his pockets. Got time for a coffee? My treat for putting up with me." She hesitated, her instinct to bolt warring with the part of her that wanted answers. That Mont Blanc pen, the fat tip, he wasn't adding up, and she needed to know why. "Fine," she said, keeping her tone brisk. "One coffee. There's a place on Meeting Street." They walked in silence, the city's hum of bicycles and horse carriages filling the gap. At Husk's tiny cafe they grabbed a corner table, the air thick with roasted beans and jazz from a tinny speaker. Lily sipped her latte, watching him over the rim. Michael leaned back, his linen shirt creased from the day, and started small, asking about her favorite Charleston festival, her worst tour group. She answered curtly at first, but his easy laugh pulled her in, and soon she was talking about Spoleto, the crowds, the music that made her feel alive. He listened hard, like her words were a map he was memorizing, and it threw her. Most guys tuned out. He didn't. "You're not like other guides," he said, stirring his black coffee. "You don't just recite facts. You feel this place." She shrugged, her guard still up. "It's home. You? What's your deal? You dodge every question about yourself." Her voice had an edge, testing him. He set his mug down, his smile fading. "Fair enough. I've been running from my life, I guess. Used to work in real estate, big deals, old buildings, cities like New York, Chicago. Made a lot of money." He paused, his fingers tapping the table. "Too much, maybe. Got tired of it, the suits, the handshakes, the emptiness. Came here to slow down, find something real." Lily's grip tightened on her mug, her mind flashing to the article she'd read. "Real estate," she repeated, her tone flat. "You mean flipping houses?" "More like neighborhoods," he said, then caught her look and leaned forward. "Look, I'm not bragging, I'm just saying I'm not that guy anymore. I want meaning, not another deal." Her pulse jumped, the pieces clicking too fast. "So you're what? A millionaire playing backpacker?" she said, her voice rising. "You think you can just waltz in, act normal, and I'll buy it? What's your angle, Michael?" His eyes widened, caught off guard. "Angle? Lily, there's no game here. I told you because I like you. I wanted you to know me, not some cover story." She stood, her chair scraping the floor, her face hot. "You don't get it. I don't trust people who hide things, and you've been hiding this the whole time. I'm not your charity case or your little adventure." She grabbed her bag, ignoring the stares from nearby tables, and stormed out, the cafe door slamming behind her. The street was humid, dusk settling over the gas lamps. She heard him follow, his voice urgent. "Lily, wait!" He caught her arm gently and she spun around, glaring. "I'm sorry," he said, breathless. "I didn't mean to blindside you. I wasn't hiding, I didn't want you to see me as a bank account. I wanted you to see me." Her chest heaved, his words hitting softer than she expected. His face was open, raw, not the smug grin she'd braced for. "You should have said it up front," she snapped, but her voice wavered. "I don't like being played." "I'm not playing," he said, stepping back, giving her space. "I'll prove it. Let me finish the tour. No secrets, no strings. Just let me show you." She crossed her arms, staring at the cobblestones, her heart a tug of war. He sounded sincere, but she'd heard pretty words before. Still, cutting him off felt wrong. "One more day," she said finally, her eyes hard. "Mess it up, and I'm done." He nodded, relief flickering in his gaze. "Deal." As she walked away, her steps heavy, doubt clung to her like the evening heat. Michael Hayes was more than he seemed, maybe too much, and she wasn't sure she could trust her instincts to tell the difference. The Charleston air was softer today, carrying the briny tang of the sea as Lily led Michael down a sandy path to Folly Beach, the tour's pace slower, less scripted. After their coffee shop clash, she'd kept him at arm's length, but he hadn't pushed. His questions stayed light, his grin cautious, like he was walking on glass. She pointed out the lighthouse in the distance, its white tower stark against the blue, and rattled off facts about shipwrecks. Her voice steady, but Michael nodded, hands in his jeans, his hazel eyes catching hers whenever she glanced his way. They wandered to a quieter stretch, dunes fringing the shore, and sat on a driftwood bench. the waves a rhythmic hum. He asked about her life beyond tours, what she'd do if money wasn't a cage. She hesitated, her sneakers digging into the sand. "I'd open a cultural center," she said, almost shy. "A place for Charleston stories, gullah music, old recipes, history kids could touch." "Dumb, probably." "Not dumb," he said, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "Sounds like you, saving what matters." His tone was warm, no trace of the slick charm she'd braced for. It loosened something in her, and they talked longer, about street festivals, her dad's low-country boils, the way she'd sketch houses as a kid, dreaming of their secrets. Later they hit Middleton Place, its gardens a maze of camellias and ancient oaks. Michael trailed her through the paths, asking about her favorite memory here. "Summer concerts," she admitted, pausing by a reflecting pool. Lying on the grass, music everywhere, felt like the world made sense. He smiled, like he could see it, and she wondered why his quiet felt so safe. That night they ended up back at the beach, the tour long forgotten. The moon hung low, silver light rippling on the water as they sat on a blanket she'd grabbed from her car. Michael stared at the horizon, his usual ease gone. "I got burned once," he said, voice low. "Girl I thought I'd marry. She loved my wallet, not me. Ran off with half my savings when I proposed. Taught me to hide who I am." Lily's breath caught, her fingers twisting the blanket's edge. His hurt mirrored hers, raw and unpolished. She swallowed, then spoke. "Mine was simpler. Guy I loved said I was too much, too loud, too stuck in this town. Left me for someone who didn't care about anything." Her voice cracked and she looked away, the waves blurring. Michael turned, his gaze steady. "He was wrong. You're not too much. You're real. That's rare." His words landed soft, like a hand on her shoulder, and she met his eyes, seeing no pity, just truth. The air between them thickened, charged with something neither named. She felt her walls wobble, the ones she'd built after betrayal, and it scared her as much as it thrilled her. They sat there, the tide creeping closer, their shoulders inches apart. She wanted to lean in, to let go, but the ghost of old wounds held her back. Michael didn't push, just stayed, his presence solid against the night's chill. "You ever think people can start over?" he asked, tossing a pebble into the surf. "Sometimes," she said, her voice barely above the waves. "If they're brave enough." He nodded, a faint smile breaking through. "Guess we'll see." They packed up slowly, the blanket heavy with sand, and walked back to her car in silence, the moonlight trailing them. Lily's heart thudded, a quiet ache blooming where fear used to live. Michael wasn't what she'd expected, not a liar, not a player, maybe not even a mistake. As he waved goodnight, his silhouette fading into the dark, she stood by her car, the key cold in her hand. "He's not what I was afraid of," she thought, the words heavy with possibility. Or am I the one who's wrong? Charleston's city market buzzed with Saturday crowds, the air thick with the scent of kettle corn and leather, as Lily guided Michael through the stalls. She pointed out a vendor carving wooden spoons, her voice steady despite the warmth of his shoulder brushing hers. Their night on the beach had left her unsteady. His story, her own confession, the way his eyes held hers, like she was enough. She pushed it down, focusing on the tour, but his quiet laugh at a street performer's juggling kept tugging her back. They paused at a jewelry booth, Michael fingering a silver oyster pendant, while Lily chatted with the seller. A man in a polo shirt stopped short, staring. "Hayes?" he said, loud enough to turn heads. "Michael Hayes! Damn, it is you!" Michael stiffened, his hand dropping the pendant, but the guy was already pulling out his phone. "Man, nobody's seen you since that Boston deal. Thought you went monk or something." Lily frowned, her gut twisting as Michael forced a smile. "Wrong guy," he said, steering her away, but the man snapped a photo, grinning. "Sure, buddy." By the time they reached the next block, Lily's phone buzzed. Texts from Mia, a link to a local gossip page. Millionaire Michael Hayes spotted with mystery girl in Charleston. The blurry photo showed them at the booth, her laughing, him looking at her. Comments piled up. Temporary fling? She's in it for the cash. Her face burned, the market's noise turning sharp. She stopped under a palmetto tree, her hands shaking as she scrolled. "What the hell is this?" she said, shoving the phone at Michael. "Your buddy outs you, and now I'm some gold digger in a tabloid?" His jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the screen. "Lily, I didn't plan this. That guy's just some jerk I met once." "Right," she snapped, her voice rising. "So it's a coincidence I'm getting trashed online? You drag me into your rich guy drama to what, look good? Get attention?" Her chest heaved, old betrayals roaring back. She'd trusted him, opened up, and now she was a punchline. "Lily, no," he said, stepping closer, his voice low but urgent. "I don't want attention. I came here to get away from it. I'm sorry this happened, but I'd never use you." His hand reached for hers, but she pulled back, her eyes blazing. "Then why am I the one humiliated?" she said, tears pricking. "I didn't sign up for this. Tour's over, Michael. Find someone else to play your game." She turned, shoving through the crowd, her sneakers pounding the pavement as she left him standing there. By evening, she was holed up in her apartment, the curtains drawn, her phone off to block the notifications. A knock came, soft, insistent. She opened the door to Michael, his shirt rumpled, his face drawn. "Hear me out," he said before she could slam it. "I called in favors, editors, that post's down, and I got the guy to shut up. Nobody's printing your name." She crossed her arms, leaning on the doorframe. "Why should I believe you? You're good at hiding things." "Because I care about you," he said, his voice raw. "Not headlines, not deals. You. I messed up not warning you this could happen, but I'm trying to fix it. Give me a chance to prove I'm not playing you." His eyes held hers, steady, pleading, and she remembered the beach, the way he'd listened, the hurt he'd shared. Her anger cracked, doubt seeping in. "You've got one shot," she said, her voice hard. "No more surprises, or I'm gone for good." He nodded, relief softening his face. "No surprises, I swear." He stepped back, leaving her doorway empty, the night quiet except for her racing pulse. Lily shut the door, sliding down against it, her head in her hands. Michael's world was bigger, messier than she'd imagined, and she wasn't sure if his promises held weight. She'd stay, but worry gnawed at her. What did he really want, and could she survive finding out? The Cooper River glittered under the late afternoon sun, its banks fringed with marsh grass, as Lily spread a checkered blanket near Ravenel Bridge. She'd agreed to one last tour day with Michael, her nerves raw after the market scandal, but his quiet apology and quick fix with the gossip page had kept her from walking away. He'd suggested a picnic, no itinerary, just them, and she'd brought sandwiches and lemonade, trying to ignore the warmth in his smile as he sat across from her, his jeans dusted with sand. They ate slowly, the hum of cicadas mixing with distant boat horns. Michael asked about her childhood, bike rides through Charleston's alleys, summers shucking corn with her mom, and she answered, her guard softening with each laugh he drew out. He shared less, but when he did, stories of sneaking into abandoned buildings as a kid, chasing ghosts of history, she saw the man beneath the money, the one who'd chosen her beach confession over a penthouse. Still, doubt lingered, heavy as the humid air. As the sun dipped, he leaned back on his elbows, his hazel eyes catching hers. "Lily," he said, his voice low, deliberate. "I need to say something. I'm falling for you, hard. Not because you're my guide or some story I tell myself, because you're you, sharp, real, everything I didn't know I needed." Her breath stopped, her sandwich forgotten in her lap. The words hit like sunlight, warm and blinding, but fear rushed in colder. "Michael, don't," she said, her voice tight. "You can't just. You live in a different world, mansions, jets. I'm a ticket girl with a studio apartment. This doesn't work." "It works if we wanted to," he said, sitting up, his hand hovering near hers. "I don't care about the rest. I care about us." She shook her head, standing, the blanket bunching under her feet. "There's no us. You're dreaming, and I've been hurt too much to dream with you." Her chest ached, his sincerity cutting deeper than she'd expected, but she turned away, grabbing the picnic basket to anchor herself. The next morning, they rented bikes to ride the West Ashley Greenway, a quiet trail fringed with pines. Lily pedaled ahead, her ponytail bouncing, trying to outrun the memory of his confession. Michael kept pace, his silence heavy but patient. The path narrowed, roots snaking across it, and her front wheel caught one, jerking hard. She flew forward, hitting the dirt with a gasp, her knee scraping raw against gravel. "Lily?" Michael was off his bike in seconds, kneeling beside her, his hands gentle but urgent as he checked her leg. "You okay?" "Don't move yet." He pulled a water bottle from his backpack, cleaning the cut with steady care, his brow creased with worry. She winced, but his touch, firm, tender, held her still, her heart racing for reasons beyond the fall. "I'm fine," she muttered, pushing his hand away, but he stayed close, wrapping a bandana around her knee like it was second nature. "Stop fussing," she said, but her voice shook, his concern cracking her walls. No one had looked at her like that, like she was fragile but worth saving. Since she'd shut the world out, he sat back, his eyes searching hers. "I picked Charleston because I heard it heals hearts," he said quietly. "Thought it was just talk, but then I met you. You're what I want, Lily, nobody else, no other life." She stared at him, the trail silent except for their breathing. His words sank in, real as the sting in her knee, but self-doubt roared louder. She wasn't enough. Not for his world, his wealth, his everything. "You don't get it," she said, standing shakily, her voice breaking. "I'm not good enough for your life, Michael. I'll never be." He stood too, his face raw, but she backed away, grabbing her bike. "Lily, that's not—" he started, but she cut him off, pedaling back toward the rental shop, her eyes stinging with tears she wouldn't let fall. He followed at a distance, giving her space, but his presence burned behind her. As she ditched the bike and headed home alone, the words spilled out in a sob. "I'm not enough for your world," she whispered, the river's shimmer fading behind her, her heart torn between his truth and her fear. Charleston's streets hummed with gossip as Lily punched tickets at the cruise dock, her jaw tight under the morning sun. The market photo had sparked a wildfire. Blogs now called her the tour guide chasing millions, and coworkers whispered behind her back, their glances sharp with doubt. Mia had texted an apology for pushing her into the tour, but it didn't soften the sting of a barista muttering, "Guess she's set for life now." Lily's skin burned. She'd never wanted Michael's money, but the world saw only dollar signs. Michael faced his own storm. Old contacts from New York, hedge fund types, yacht owners flooded his phone with smirks disguised as texts. Slumming it with a local? Cute. He ignored them, but the jabs landed, reminding him of deals and dinners he'd left behind. He'd come to Charleston for truth, not ridicule, yet here he was, defending a choice they couldn't grasp. Still, he showed up at the dock at noon, his flannel shirt creased, his eyes steady on Lily as she avoided his gaze. "Lunch?" he asked, voice low. She shook her head, sorting receipts with forced focus. "Lily, talk to me. I know it's bad out there." "Bad?" she snapped, finally looking up. "I'm a joke, Michael. They think I'm after your bank account. My boss asked if I'm quitting for a better offer." "I can't do this," her voice cracked, her hands trembling. "We should stop before it gets worse." He stepped closer, the dock creaking under him. "Stop? No. I'm not running because people talk. Neither should you." His tone was firm, but his eyes pleaded, and she hated how it tugged at her. "It's not just talk," she said, turning away. "It's my life. I don't fit in yours, never will." She walked off, leaving him by the water, her chest heavy with the urge to look back. That evening, Lily slumped on her couch, the TV droning local news. She froze when Michael's face appeared, live, on a Charleston talk show, his shirt ironed but his jaw set like he was going to war. The host leaned in, all smiles. "So, Michael Hayes, mystery millionaire, what's the deal with you and this tour guide?" Michael didn't flinch. "Her name's Lily Newen," he said, his voice clear, cutting through the studio hum. And I love her, not because of gossip or games, because of her heart. She's real, braver than anyone I've met, and nothing you say changes that." The audience hushed, then clapped, the host scrambling to keep up. "She's not a story," he added. "She's my choice." Lily's breath caught, her remote slipping to the floor. His words weren't scripted. They were raw, defiant, and they shattered her doubts like glass. The screen cut to callers praising him, strangers moved by his stand, and she felt the weight of their judgment lift, replaced by something warmer. She grabbed her keys, running to the studio downtown, her sneakers slapping wet pavement after a sudden drizzle. Michael was outside, alone under a street lamp, his phone dark in his hand. He looked up as she approached, surprise softening his face. "Lily?" "I saw you," she said, breathless, stopping inches from him. "On TV. You meant it, all of it." "Every word," he said, stepping closer, raindrops clinging to his hair. "I'm all in, Lily. Are you?" Her throat tightened, fear and want colliding. She'd spent years guarding her heart, but his voice, his fight for her, broke through. "I'm scared," she whispered. "But I love you too. I don't know how this works, but I want to try." His smile was slow, real, and he pulled her into his arms, her cheek against his damp shirt. The city blurred around them, the gossip fading to static. "We'll figure it out," he said, his lips brushing her forehead together. She nodded, her hands gripping his back, resolve settling deep. The world could talk. They'd face it side by side, no matter what came next. A year had passed, and Charleston's summer air wrapped Folly Beach in a warm haze, the sky streaked with coral as waves lapped the shore. Lily Hayes stood barefoot in the sand, her white sundress fluttering, a simple silver band glinting on her finger. She laughed, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear as Michael tossed a frisbee to a group of kids nearby, his linen shirt unbuttoned at the collar. Their wedding had been quiet, held in a garden at Boone Hall, just family, Mia, and a guitarist playing low-country blues. No paparazzi, no headlines, just vows sealed with a kiss under an oak's shade. Lily's life had shifted, not into Michael's wealth, but into something they'd built together. She'd quit the cruise dock, pouring her heart into a small cultural center on East Bay Street, a cozy space with creaking floors, walls lined with Gola art, and tables for kids to learn basket waving or hear stories of the city's past. Michael had been her anchor, using his real estate savvy to secure the lease and navigate permits. But he let her lead, his pride in her quieter than any deal he'd ever closed. They named it Low Country Roots, a nod to her dream and the history she loved. Today, the center was hosting its first summer festival. Kids darted across the beach, clutching kites shaped like shrimp boats, while parents sipped sweet tea under striped tents. Lily manned a booth, teaching a girl how to braid sweetgrass, her hands steady as she guided tiny fingers. Michael joined her, carrying a tray of lemonade, his grin wide. "You're natural," he said, setting the drinks down. "This place. It's you, Lily." She smiled, brushing sand from her hands. "It's us. Couldn't have done it without you." He kissed her temple, quick and soft, and she leaned into him, the crowd's chatter fading to a hum. They'd face whispers in the early months, skeptics calling her a climber, old friends of his scoffing at their small-town life. But the noise had dulled, their love was louder, rooted in mornings brewing coffee together, nights planning events over takeout, moments like this, where the world felt right. A boy ran up, holding a lopsided basket he'd made. "Miss Lily, look," he beamed, and she knelt, praising his work, her eyes bright. Michael watched, his chest tight with something deeper than pride. He'd come to Charleston chasing a feeling, burned by betrayal, sure he'd never find real. Lily had changed that. Her fire, her heart, the way she fought for what mattered. She'd been afraid once, scared she didn't fit his world, but now she was his world, and he'd never trade it. As dusk settled, the festival wound down, kites packed away, tents folded. Lily and Michael stayed, helping volunteers clean up, their laughter mingling with the tide's rhythm. They'd started free history tours for schools, Michael driving the van while Lily spun tales of pirates and poets. The kids loved her, and he loved watching her shine, her fear of being not enough buried under the life they'd carved. With the beach empty, they walked to the water's edge, the sand cool under their feet. The horizon glowed amber, the sun sinking slow, and Lily slipped her hand into his, her ring catching the light. "Year one," she said, her voice soft. "Still can't believe we made it." He pulled her close, his arm around her waist. "Believe it. You're stuck with me." She laughed, nudging him, but her eyes held his, warm and sure. They'd faced doubts, scandals, her own ghosts of heartbreak, and come out stronger, not because of money or luck, but because they chose each other every day. The waves rolled in, gentle and steady, and they stood there, silhouettes against the fading day. Charleston stretched behind them, its spires and secrets a quiet witness to their story, a tour guide who'd sworn off love, a millionaire who'd hidden his heart, finding home in each other's arms. As the last light vanished, Lily rested her head on his shoulder, the sunset sealing a truth. Their love wasn't just real, it was unbreakable, a tide that would carry them through anything. Charleston's sunset faded to a soft purple, the waves whispering against Folly Beach as Lily and Michael stood hand in hand, their shadows blending into the sand. What started with a missed tour and a sharp exchange blossomed into a love that weathered gossip, doubt, and the weight of different worlds. Lily, once guarded by heartbreak, found courage in Michael's steady heart, while he, a man cloaked in wealth's shadow, discovered truth in her fire. Together, they built more than a cultural center, they built a life, proving that love doesn't need riches, only the bravery to choose it. Their story, born in Charleston's cobblestone heart, reminds us that sometimes the greatest journeys lead not to places, but to people who change everything. If Lily and Michael's tale stirred your soul, how a tour guide's spark met a millionaire's search for real, how they fought for love against all odds, then join us for more. Subscribe to the Soul-Stirring Stories channel, where every story kindles hope and celebrates the connections that make us whole. Hit that subscribe button now, and let's uncover the next unforgettable journey together.